Hi, I'm Steph Ritz. We're on day 9 of a 10-day video challenge called Stories That Sell. Today's question is, who's in your audience? Now, when I think of this question, though there's so many different ways to answer it, today what's really coming up is not just who's in my audience, but whose audience am I in? And when have I spoken to that audience that I was a part of? So, two specific events really come up that drastically show the difference of what I want to illustrate here. The first is a story about so I was attending an event and was chosen to be hot seated about my business. And I was pulled on stage with two different coaches who started asking me about what I was doing. At the time, while I had been writing books and building business platforms, writing articles, and starbursting their ideas out into the world, I had then transitioned online and done some work that others were telling me was called virtual assistant work or content marketing or online marketing. And I didn't really have all the words. So when I showed up to this event, my business card said that I was an integrated online content marketer. And with those four words strung together, and when I said this, sitting on the stage speaking to the audience of which I was a part of, there were maybe two or three people in that audience that went, "Oh, yes, you're exactly what I've been looking for." And the other 100 people, or 80 or however many were there, were like, what does that mean? So when I look back to that time, I don't think I even knew the term copywriter at the time. I didn't know that when you write a website, it's called copywriting. Right now, I can easily say I'm a copywriter, but if I say that, it narrows me, and it's not what I do. So I got up on the stage, and I'm trying to prove myself to everyone, telling them, this is my big fancy title, this is, this is what I have done for others and can work for you. And as soon as I start talking, saying not just what I've been told to say or thought I should be saying, but then started explaining what it is I was really doing with these people, the room lit up. And when I came off of the stage, even though it was maybe just a couple minutes sitting in the hot seat talking to the coaches, when I came off, I couldn't even get out of the room. I was getting cornered walking down the hall because it was, like a bathroom break time. I got cornered outside of the hall, and everyone wanted business positioning help instantly. Even then, it took at least another 6 months, if not a year, before I really understood the term positioning and what that meant, because it wasn't inside of my realm of understanding. It was what I was doing. It was a person at that event who heard me get up on stage and say, I'm an integrated online content marketer, and explained what I did, that then the first time that we worked together, that very it was instant in that moment. We started working together about a year after that. And in that moment, he looked at me and he goes, where did you learn NLP? You are such a master at NLP. And I remember looking back at him and being like, what's NLP? I'd never heard the phrase neurolinguistic programming. I didn't know what it was. I'd been trained to read micro-expressions and to speak to the nuance of voice and character and meaning and message. Apparently, a lot of what I do fits under some term and knowledge that I just didn't know at the time. Kind of like at the time that I started writing websites back in 2003, I didn't know the term copywriting. Now, fast forward from that moment, about 5 months later, and I was at a different event, but the same group of people, a little bit smaller though. And when I was attending this event, I came into the room late, and the introduction exercise was there's like a list of different things that we could do that we could introduce ourselves. Well, everyone had gone. I'd missed every example of it, but I walked in and was like, okay, Steph, on the spot, here you go. Stand up in front of everyone and introduce yourself in one of these ways. And it was like objects or animals or colors or that kind of thing. And I had just come from a photo shoot, so I really connected with the photographer. We'd shared some beautiful stories back and forth. I knew, having worked as a portrait photographer before, I knew exactly what I was trying to create, had brought the outfit, the makeup, the jewelry, everything, and she really worked with me. And so what was supposed to be like a 10 or 15-minute shoot ended up being a 30, 45-minute shoot. And um, I was really grounded in self at that time. The phrase that comes to mind that has kind of been a mantra through this challenge for me is drop and give me Zen, right? Drop into your heart space, find Zen, and speak from there. Well, I had just been sitting in that space, working collaboratively with this photographer to create my vision, and walked into this room, immediately had to speak to the audience that I hadn't even known or really even knew who was going to be in that room in that moment. And so I look at the list, and the first thing that I see is objects. And the one that I grab is, well, so I'm a word weaver who pulls stories from your mind like thought threads that can be pulled out and woven into a tapestry, kind of like those amazing tapestries that you see where every single strand is taken and put together and constructed in a way that tells a complete story, an entire, from start to finish story that has the highs and the magicalness of unicorns and the violence of the knights and the gloriousness of the magic, and the scene is all within one, though sometimes they work in multiples together. And I spoke from a place where I wasn't trying to prove anything to anyone. I just wanted to really look at, this is how I see it. I literally call it story pulling. I'm pulling these thought threads out. And you've seen me do some weaving before, working on your story weaving skills. Well, these concepts, they're not new to me. I never put them together as in a tapestry, and I never told it in that way before. And the people in the room were mesmerized. Of the 30 people in the room, I'm counting, about half of them became clients over the next 2 years. Some sat in the community for a while, but half of them went not even from just community, but into my tribe. And I was just part of an audience speaking from the depth of my heart. So it's interesting to see when you speak to your audience as part of them, you're also speaking to yourself. And instead, if you're trying to prove something to them or prove something to yourself, it means that you're going to be overstretching, misunderstood, and it's not going to land. But when you drop into yourself and speak from Zen, it's really amazing how all of a sudden it's like speaking to yourself, just like you're speaking into this lens when you make your videos and sharing what sometimes you most need to hear too. So, who's in your audience? Cheers.